Hello and welcome to What Culture Horror with myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well, I hope you're good, I hope your week is going as well as possible. We are here today with another little horror movie review. This time out, it is another of those skew takes on classic fantasy characters of your childhood. We've had those Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey films, we've had Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and we've had a bunch of Mickey Mouse inspired Steamboat Willie inspired films, and there's so many other such movies in various stages of development, including Bambi's Reckoning, which is coming this July. And now, from ITN Studios, we have Piglet, a new horror film now available for digital download that centers around a hulking pig-based killer. But is Piglet worth your time, or is this one swine not worth bothering with? Let us find out. Right, first off, I say Piglet is a pig-based killer. He's technically a man in a pig mask. From the get-go here, we get an opening sequence that essentially gets us all up to speed on who and what Piglet is, why he is, as a couple of police officers give us a little bit of exposition. You see, Piglet began life as a normal boy, the youngest, the smallest of a family of, I think it was 6, but that family... yeah, their future Piglet would end up killing them and then being locked up for his crimes. And it is here that he's experimented on, injected with a toxic growth serum that means this little piggy is all beefy and jacked up. Beefy pig, I guess for a pig it'd be porky, but I digress. That's the setup here. All as Piglet, who wears a really sweet looking pig mask, is back on the rampage, just conveniently as a group of friends decide to book themselves a vacation in the middle of some remote woods. I mean, yeah, you can guess where things go from here, with the friends soon in the middle of Piglet's crosshairs and finding themselves in a fight for survival. There's a slew of familiar character tropes dotted in here, not just in our main characters, our main protagonists, but we've got a couple of questionable, should we say, side characters in the area, thrown in an element of who can be trusted, what motives are at play, all as the ominous figure of Piglet runs wild, brother. Now, Piglet doesn't exactly reinvent the wheel, but there are some things to enjoy here. Firstly, the Piglet design itself is pretty darn great. I mean, yes, it's essentially a big burly dude in a workman's shirt and some overalls, but that big burly dude looks impressively big and burly, as played by Alexander Butler. But it's in the pig mask design that the villain design really shines for me. And yes, it looks extremely like the Piglet mask from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but the film is not connected to the Twisted Childhood universe, or as it's also known, the Pooniverse. Yes, really. I've seen some comments online of people hating on the Piglet mask, but hey, man, I dug it. So it gets some props from me. Maybe I'm just a simple creature. But in terms of the Pooniverse, the production here is handled by ITN Studios, ITN Distribution, the same production company behind Blood and Honey and the like. But this is not connected to that shared universe, just to clarify that again. If it is indeed the very same mask design, or at least an extremely similar mask design from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, then that's a little like what was done in Mouse of Horrors earlier this year, for those who may have seen that movie. That'd be one of those Steamboat Willie inspired movies, where we had a humanoid bear appear that looked extremely like the Pooh design from the first Blood and Honey, despite not being connected, and despite that character only ever being called Bear, not Pooh, per se. Anyways, the point being, I enjoyed the Piglet villain design either way. I got a kick out of it. Of course, with any such movie, there's always questions about the gore, because, hey, horror films are bloodthirsty beasts after all. On that front, it is a bit of a mixed bag. Some of the gore and violence itself does look really, really good. Others a little so-so, but what really lets these moments down for me is the sound. So often in horror movies, if somebody's being attacked or stabbed or beaten, whatever, there's sound effects to accompany that, helping to create more of a meaty impact. Here, that isn't really the case. If there are sound effects for those moments, I mean, it's extremely low, unless my hearing is being dodgy or my machine was playing up. I mean, I am long overdue a haircut, so maybe that was the problem here. I just couldn't hear. But no, if it feels really, like I said, really muted and just really low. So what should feel like proper meaty moments of violence just lose a little impact when they all feel just, like I said, muted would be the word from an audio perspective. As for our bunch of heroes, they are all what you'd expect from this sort of movie, fairly generic. A few of them with slightly more defining characteristics and personality traits than the others. And our main focus is on Kate, as this vacation is partly to celebrate her birthday. I believe it's her 21st birthday. But she herself is dealing with plenty of trauma from something in her past. As Kate, Alina Desmond puts in a very solid performance, especially once Piglet starts to really pick up the pace in its second half. Likewise, another stand-up performance for me came from Shaylee Regan as Susie, who's got a little bit of a kind of a mildly wicked, slightly bitchy side to her. Especially there's a moment where she's the one who just so happens to have heard about the urban myth of a certain piglet and what it means for one of our other characters. As for some of the other performances, I am not going to name names here, but there are one or two that are ropey at best, and to be honest, pretty awful at worst. But then, when watching a film like Piglet, you have to take into account the low budget of such a picture, of the production values not exactly being top end, and that yes, some of the performances may not exactly be up for an Oscar nod. For those who approach lower budget movies with some leniency, you'll be a little more receptive to Piglet than those used to more mainstream horrors. But then again, this comes from the guy here who spends a large bulk of his day watching random independent and low end horrors back to back to back on Tubi. Not to mention, I'll always champion the little guys when possible. So I am admittedly more battle hardened, shall I say, to some of the quirks that come with these sort of films. Seriously, Tubi has been my greatest discovery of the past year. Literally, while working, I would just put on a totally random, obscure horror film I've never heard of. Once that's finished, just move along to whatever movie is next in the list. Lather, rinse, repeat. Yes, some can be pretty bad. Here's looking at you, Cam Blood 8. Oh man, that was horrendous. But then there are those diamonds in the rough along the way. Like One of Us was excellent. The Wimble Massacre massively surprised me. Killer Body Count was great. Oh, and also on there as well these days is Trauma and Liam Regan's brilliant Eating Miss Campbell. Go and check that out if you have not. Anyway, back to Piglet and away from my 2B viewing habits. There are some really nicely framed shots in here, particularly when it comes to Piglet's lair and the surrounding areas there. And some of that framing that really helps sell the remoteness of where our characters are, while simultaneously showing the confinements and almost claustrophobia of the situation that certain of those characters do eventually at times find themselves in. However, I touched upon the sound of the gore of the kills before, of the attacks, the violence, but the sound mix as a whole is a little bit of an issue at points. It can be all over the place. You'll have characters having the conversation. One comes through clear as day. The other, who's right there with him, or the frame changes, the shot changes, and that other person is very muffled and muted. There's also times when the score, which James Allen Robinson actually does a really good atmospheric job with the score, but sometimes the balance between the score and the dialogue is a little off, meaning some of the dialogue ends up drowned out as a result. Some might also be a little disappointed with Piglet's ending, but I will say nothing about that, for you'll have no spoilers here. And there is maybe just a smidge too much borrowing from a certain Texas Chainsaw Massacre at points as well. But if you're going to borrow from the best, I guess. So overall, is Piglet worth your time? That very much depends. If you're daft enough or naive enough to go into a low-budget slasher about a man in a pig mask and be expecting elevated chin-stroking horror, brimming with high-end production values, extravagant special effects, an all-star cast who all bring their A-game, well, yeah, of course, you're going to be left a little bit disappointed. If you approach Piglet as a low-budget film made by a crew and cast busting their backsides to try and work their way up the industry ladder and can accept that, yes, certain elements are flawed, chances are you'll find Piglet to be a reasonable way to spend what I believe, if memory serves, is about an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 25 minutes of your day. So, yeah, so for those after a more standard rating, for me, it's a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 out of 10 if I'm in a good mood. In fact, you know what? I am in a good mood today. I'm still wallowing in the buzz of my beloved Wrexham, seeing them back to back promotions. The sun is shining. I've got cold beers in my fridge. My cat is in a good mood today, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game, has double XP for a few more weeks. Catch you on there, clowns. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 10 for Piglet from me, which I should add again is available now, the film, on digital download. And with that, that's a wrap for today. This has been What Culture Horror. I've been Andrew Pollard. Be well, stay safe, and I will catch you down the road.